let's do some mental health myth busting together. I am so excited and I want to welcome you into this new support group space that 2ND with Love has created for mental wellness. But I realize I got to bust up some myths about mental wellness and how it actually works first. So let's do that together. You already know I'm Mashara, the therapist behind 2ND with Love. You see the sweatshirt, etc., etc. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, the main people that we hurt and deny safe space to are ourselves. It's not others, it's us. If you want to practice some skills, like the skills you've already got, to be a safe space with yourself to grow, then keep listening because I'm going to talk about how you can do that in community. Next thing, your therapist does not have the keys to your mental wellness. You do. Your therapist does not know you any better than you know yourself. You are the expert on you. You have what you need. Your therapist doesn't. And your ancestors were mental health experts before and outside of the European and European American version of mental health care. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that your community and your people had and have indigenous tribes that were mental health experts and cared for each other expertly in terms of mental health in groups and communally. So mental health care was about the whole tribe thriving together and the whole community, not just individual one-on-one support. It was a culture of mental wellness thriving. A culture. And that culture of support may have also included one-on-one care as needed, but the culture itself and us recognizing the mental health expertise of these ancestors immediately solves the so-called mental health access problem that we now have on this land. When I say mental health access problem, what I'm talking about is when people say it's so hard to find a good therapist. It's so hard to find a therapist that matches with my needs. It's so hard to find decent mental health care here. But what if mental wellness historically was never about finding a private personal therapist that only some people, even today, will be able to get access to? What if mental wellness is actually about the whole tribe having mental wellness know-how as common knowledge, the whole tribe having mental wellness education as a part of daily life? What if it's mental wellness practices that each person does the individual daily work to apply to their daily life? You don't have to get exhausted doing that. But what if mental wellness is a culture that has mental wellness sanctuary built inside of its daily fabric? And what if mental wellness is created from the skills that we get from coming together and giving our ancestors credit for being the mental health experts that they already were? And the mental health knowledge, giving ourselves credit for having the mental health knowledge that we've always had because we're their descendants. And that means that the mental wellness expertise is in our bodies already. What if, minus our traumas and our fears and our pain and our shame, some of which came from global trauma, such as forced colonization or land theft or faith conversions that were forced, outside of that and outside of the personal pain that we experience and the personal daily beliefs that come from that personal pain, and those are beliefs we can replace, but what if outside of that we're already healers? What if our ancestors were already healers and we are too? If we know that pain can be transferred from generation to generation, mental pain is inside of DNA, then that means that mental healing expertise that our ancestors already had is in our DNA as well. So 2ND with Love made a space for us as a community to recognize, to honor, to learn, and to go back to taking accountability for ourselves as healers. If we're busting up myths, let me bust up something else. Mental wellness is not something that can be done alone. It's communal. It's whole tribe, it's whole neighborhood, it's whole block, it's whole family. What would be the point of getting better if everyone that you know and love is sick? What's the point in having these mental wellness spaces that are not built and created for people like your mom, or people like your siblings, or people like your children, or people like your colleagues? What's the point in getting better if everyone around us is sick? Mental wellness is not something that is limited to the European American versions of mental health care. What I mean by that also is that health and wellness are about recovery and restoring us back to the best ways that our bodies have been able to function, or our brains have been able to function. But the founders of the European and European American based versions of mental health care and models of mental health care had never seen, and still have never seen, thriving, happy, healthy, Black, brown, indigenous to the land, women, men, queer people, disabled people, non-binary people. So what do those models restore us to if they've never seen us healthy? We have thrived outside of and before the pains that we've experienced, the group pains and the individual pains. We exist before those pains. And so when I say this, I'm talking about us going back to the ways that we thrived historically for centuries and thousands of years outside of the pain that we experience. When I say this, I also want to be clear that I'm not saying that people with heritage connected to the land that we now call Europe have no roots to indigenous ancestors who were mental health experts. I'm not saying that at all, because everyone is indigenous to somewhere. Everyone is indigenous to somewhere. And the land that we now call Europe has indigenous to that land people, such as the Sami people. What I'm saying is that everyone has ancestors who were mental health experts. And colonization did not wipe that out. It couldn't wipe out that expertise. Mental wellness, next myth that needs to be busted out, is not something that we can invest in when something bad happens. I'm going to say that again. You can't invest in your mental wellness and expect to be super successful if you only do it when something bad happens, when something is straining or stressing you, because that's chasing behind trauma. It's like putting lotion on an already dry scab. People that have happy skin, they might practice their skin wellness by drinking water each day, or by putting on lotion each day, or oils. They can't just do that after the fact. Likewise, mental wellness is about getting in front of trauma cycles. It's about seeing the patterns and lovingly investing in ourselves in advance. It's choosing not to have an ashy brain. That's what mental wellness is. Trauma prevention will never be as powerful. Trauma intervention will never be as powerful as trauma prevention. Trauma prevention will always be more effective than trauma intervention. Mental wellness is self-accountability for self-compassion, not for self-strain, not for self-exhaustion, not for self-blame, because those things just feed self-sabotage. Mental wellness is recognizing that we deserve to thrive together, not suffer or heal in isolation. It's recognizing that therapists, like me, are not experts on you. I believe that we're all healers, and that we're all harmers, helpers, and hurting, depending on any given moment and the beliefs and actions that we have in that moment. And the main folks that we hurt and deny a safe space to, as I said before, are ourselves. If you want to practice your skills that you already have and that I'm happy to give you credit for in a safe space, thriving with a community that will not pretend to be perfect, aka will not pretend to be plastic, but will invest in daily self-practice for of mental wellness that our ancestors were already expertly doing, particularly our Black, our queer, and our spiritually diverse ancestors, many of which I have as well, then you're invited and welcome to this space. It's on Patreon. It's called To Indie with Love, and I'll tell you what you can find inside.